Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the First Universalist Church of Rochester, where we are called to nurture the spirit and serve the community. And what a beautiful day it is today. Today's service is the last service of the summer season. Remember that next week the service will begin at 10:30 instead of 10. Today's worship leaders are from your worship associate team, Kitty Forbush, Patti Goodwin, and Tom Williams, me. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whoever you love, we welcome you. If you are here for the first time this morning, we especially welcome you. There is a link to the visitors forum in the chat for you to fill out at your convenience. During the service or afterwards, please fill this out so we can be in touch with you and offer you a full welcome. At the top of our online service, we want to invite you to please remain muted throughout the service. Whenever too many voices sing or speak together, it can create a cacophony of voices on our audio, which can disturb the flow and experience of worship. As we gather together this morning, we want to invite you to pop into the chat and offer a greeting. You can find this at the top or bottom of the screen with an icon of a text bubble and the word chat. So please pop on over and offer a greeting. It could be a wave of hello or an I'm here or whatever you prefer. Welcome to the worship at First Universalist.
Has left the building by Reverend Margaret Wise. The church is not only a steeple above the tree line, streets, and cars. Rather, it is a people proclaiming to the world that we are here for the work of healing and of justice. The church is not walls built upon stone held together by mortar, but rather person linked to person, linked with person, all ages and genders and abilities. A community built on the foundation of reason, faith, and love. The church is not just a set of doors open on Sunday morning, but the commitment day after day and moment after moment of our hearts creaking open the doors of welcome to the possibility of new experience and radical welcome. The church is not simply a building, a steeple, a pew. The church is us, each and every one of us, together, a beacon of hope to this world that so sorely needs it. Now, my church family, come, let us worship together.
Sacred Unknowing by Reverend Amy Carol Webb. Oh, I can't get, there we go. We light this flame for the art of sacred unknowing. Humbled by all that we cannot fathom in this time, we come into the presence of what we know, perhaps the only thing we can ever know, that love is now and forever, the only answer to everything and everyone in every moment. As we light our chalice, will you join me in saying our chalice words in unison? May we be a people of welcome, here to grow in heart and mind and spirit, and may we reach out to serve our community. Please join me in our affirmation of faith, followed by our doxology. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the source and meaning of life. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all.
Today's offertory words are a poem by Anne Frank. I can feel the suffering of millions. I can feel the suffering of millions, and yet, if I look up into the heavens, I think it will all come right, and that this cruelty too will end, and that peace and tranquility will return again. In the meantime, I must uphold my ideals, for perhaps this time will come when I shall be able to carry them out. In this difficult times, we are not alone. Won't you please join me in giving your support to sustain this blessed place? Please copy and paste the link in the chat to give online to First Universalist Church, or feel free to send a check to the church.
To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to weep, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep. Well, to everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time of love, a time of hate, a time of war, a time of peace, a time you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to gain, a time to lose, a time to rend, a time to sow, a time of love, a time to hate, a time for peace. I swear it's not too late. Well, to everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time to every purpose under heaven. And a time to every purpose under heaven.
You all now into this reverent time of sharing the joys and sorrows of our gathered community. If you would like, you can place a hand over your heart to be able to listen from a heart-centered place. As we place stones into the bowl, I will read aloud the joys and sorrows of our gathered community. All are also invited to share your joys and sorrows in the chat that we may hear from the community gathered here. I have two sorrows from Reverend Lane. It is with sorrow that we inform you that member Jessie Warner has passed away earlier this week. Jessie was an active member here who enjoyed volunteering in the nursery. She loved her faith and she loved her congregation. There will be a memorial service in her honor on September 13th at 4 p.m. via Zoom. Rest peacefully, Jessie. During Friday evening, the second joy or sorrow from Reverend Lane is during Friday evening's Black Lives Matter demonstration, the church building received some minor damage. A window was broken in the volunteer's office. The damage has been temporarily repaired and the building secured by the House Committee. There were no injuries. And I have a joy from Kitty Forbush. Kitty's nephew, Raphael, and his wife have announced the coming of their first child. This will make Kitty a great aunt. And I have a joy from Dick and Joyce Gilbert. We remember attending the March 1963, we remember attending the 1963 March on Washington and hope the current march will have its positive impact. Joy from, oh, they're going too fast. Weeping for our city, may it heal, from Connie Vol. From Elizabeth, a friend who is struggling with kidney cancer. Let us place a, from Kelly and Michael Scott, happy birthday, from Kelly. Yeah, happy birthday to my hubby, Michael, from Kelly. Happy birthday, Michael, from everybody. And we drop one final stone into the bowl to represent all the joys and sorrows left unspoken in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts, may all be held in the heart of love.
Let us now enter a time of prayer and meditation. A Prayer for These Times by Kenneth P. Langer. Let me find peace within, so that I may be calm throughout. Let me find silence within, so that I may find compassion throughout. Let me be reminded that some things are worth waiting for. Let me be reminded that the journey is more important than reaching the destination. Let me see that the non-doing is as much a part of life as the doing. Let me be reminded that it is in these moments of holding on that I can find quietude and renewal. It is within these times of inaction that I can find rest. It is in these times of emptiness that I can become full.
Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing. In storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still will remain, singing. Calming my fears, quenching my tears, through all the years, singing.
Today's reading is Pandemic by Reverend Lynn Unger. What if you thought of it as the Jews consider the Sabbath, the most sacred of times? Cease from travel. Cease from buying and selling. Give up, just for now, on trying to make the world different than it is. Sing, pray, touch only those to whom you commit your life. Center down. And when your body has become still, reach out with your heart. Know that we are connected in ways that are terrifying and beautiful. You could hardly deny it now. Know that our lives are in one another's hands. Surely that has come clear. Do not reach out your hands. Reach out your heart. Reach out your words. Reach out all the tendrils of compassion that move invisibly where we cannot touch. Promise this world your love, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, as long as we all shall live.
Recently, I saw this little saying on one of my work emails. Simply it said, "My calling to be a nurse carries me through the bad days, and it helps to remind me of all the wonderful things that make me absolutely love what I do." When considering our sermon topic for today, the gifts of COVID, I realized that being able to continue to work as a nurse at the Pluto Cancer Center is one of my greatest gifts. Cancer does not give two hoots about COVID. People are still diagnosed with cancer and have to be treated and cared for, which now is even more treacherous in these pandemic times as we are giving them immunosuppressive drugs. We wear masks for 10 hours a day and we can't hug anyone. I cheat sometimes. But we are still able to lead our patients out of fear and into faith. I absolutely adore my co-nurses. They are my family. So being able to be with them 40 hours a week is a true blessing. Another gift is that I've become, don't laugh, a crochetaholic. I decided to make Afghans for as many people as I can while our Social Justice Circle blanket ministry has been put on hold. I swear I have a personal relationship with a couple of the clerks at Michael's at Pittsburgh Plaza, as I go there probably twice a week since they opened back up to replenish my yarn stores. Currently, I'm immersed in a project of making Afghans for my coworkers' children. There are 6 kids under the age of 8, and I am on my 6th Afghan. The only requirements for each one was that the mom find out the color each child wanted, and when they give them their Afghan, they had to videotape their reaction. That's the best part, so cute. I love color and design, and it's been so fun to create something lasting for them. My 49-year-old stepson still has the one I made him when he was 8 on his bed now. One more gift is the gift of connection. Every Sunday since March at 4 p.m., I take part in a Zoom family meeting with my son Cooper here with me, my niece Luz and her wife Fernanda in LA, my nephew Rafi and his wife Gemma in Crystal, Minnesota, and my sister Mari and her partner Don in Mendota Heights, Minnesota. We check in, laugh, share, play games, complain about politics, and are just together for an hour. Truly, if it were not for sheltering, we would never do this. My connections to all of them have become stronger and more life-affirming. There are many other things that I've filled my free time with: my garden, fixing things in my house, cooking, trying new recipes, playing my piano, practicing accompanying myself singing, reading, writing and drawing in my journal, and developing my spiritual practice by praying and meditating. Boredom has never really been a big part of my life, and I've been grateful for the extra time to explore my interests. I guess I'm practicing for retirement in 295 days. And last but not least, certainly not least, I marvel at the gift of resiliency that this church has shown to be able to carry on our mission to nurture the spirit and serve the community in spite of the pandemic, even though we have had to do it virtually. People have found ways to safely meet and connect and continue our work as a spiritual force in a loving, supportive community, which is a true blessing to us all. So be it, truly.
COVID has given me the free time to sit, ponder, and do some remembering. That alone is a gift. During my pondering moments, I realized I had been given a gift early on in my life. A handshake is a globally widespread, brief greeting or parting tradition in which 2 people grasp one of each other's hands, in most cases accompanied by a brief up and down motion of the grasped hands. One of my earliest memories is going to my maternal grandparents' home. I was no more than 3 years old. My grandfather, Francis Kelly, known as Frank, could always be found in his wicker rocker in the dining room, wedged between the dining room table and the old red enameled coal furnace in the corner. Upon entering the house, either the front or back door, Grandpa would yell to my older brother and me to come give him a handshake. We would run to him and shake his hand, up and down. The ritual was also repeated when we left to go home. It was a ritual he had with us until the day he died when I was 15. I didn't always like the ritual, but I always went along with it. But as I got older, I realized what an important lesson I had been taught, a real gift. Whenever meeting someone new or seeing an old acquaintance, I now enjoy a firm handshake of introduction and greeting. I think of it both as a welcoming and a respectful gesture to both men and women. COVID has taken the handshake from us, but I still instinctively reach for the outstretched hand of another in greeting. For now, bumping elbows will have to do. COVID helped me understand I was given a gift long ago by my grandpa. About 6 weeks into self-quarantining, another thought came to me out of the blue. I was getting bored of the quarantine routine when the lightning bolt struck me. This is how your grandmother lived for 16 years. When I was 9, my grandpa Williams died. My parents and my grandmother came to a decision, and within a month of his death, my parents packed us up and with my now 2 brothers, moved us into our paternal grandmother, Emily, in with our paternal grandmother, Emily Williams. We moved from an upper 2-bedroom flat into Grandma's bigger house. Grandma got the smallest bedroom, which was about 10 by 10. Within 2 years of moving to the house on Spruce Street, my grandmother began losing her eyesight due to complications from diabetes 2, and within 5 years, she was totally blind. In the beginning of her blindness, she still ventured up and down the stairs for meals and family time. But as she grew older and more agile, she no longer felt confident maneuvering the stairs and spent her entire time in that little bedroom with just a bed, dresser, and a comfortable chair. She had been an elementary school teacher and was an avid reader. She spent her days listening to books and magazines sent to her on 33 RPM records from the Association for the Blind. She listened to the radio, had favorite programs, and listened to the news. She was sharp of mind and was always up on current events. But she was totally quarantined in that little room. I never heard her complain. During this time, my brothers and I were in our teens. We all knew how to sneak up the creaky old stairs so as not to get caught by Grandma and snagged into running her errands. Very selfish of us, I realize now, but hey, we were kids. My parents had a 4th son, and now there was a baby in the house, and as he grew, he and Grandma became playmates because his room was right across from hers. He and Grandma played and called each other Chip and Dale. I can't remember which one was which. These were good years for her until my baby brother went off to school. She was 68 years old when we moved there, and she lived to be 89. Here I was, complaining and carping during the early days of COVID. I still had my eyesight. I had the company of my wife. I could talk on the phone. I could get in the car and go grocery shopping, albeit with a mask. I could take a ride in the fresh air. I could take a nice walk. I have my health. Grandma sat quarantined for 16 years in total darkness in a 10 by 10 room. For whatever time it takes to reopen our lives to the new normal, it is a piece of cake. Tough, though inconvenient, a gift in comparison to her 16 years. My final gift is Governor Andrew Cuomo. Each day, as Carol and I sat quarantined, we tuned in the TV at 11:30 a.m. to hear the governor update the state of New York on the severity of the COVID virus. We waited patiently for the daily briefings, even though much of the time it was repeated information. Governor Cuomo's quick action, tough lessons, bold moves, and adherence to the facts of science has made New York State one of the safest places in the nation. New York tough, New York smart, New York united, New York disciplined, New York loving. Thank you, Governor Cuomo, for the gift to all New Yorkers.
The world stopped. In the little squares on my calendar were listed times of events, all now canceled. As the weeks went on, nothing filled the empty squares. Nothing. It almost seemed as if the world was filled with nothing. Nothing but the news updates of the numbers, those sick, those gone. These are indeed difficult times, the kind of times that can make people feel depressed. But into this nothing, into this silence came the still small voice. Our lives were not filled so much with things from without, but from things we created from within. In the first few weeks of the shutdown, I remember the silence. The world had become profoundly quiet. It was the kind of quiet that allowed one time to muse, time to notice, time to create. We became still. We took a break from schedules and obligations. We connected to the spiritual. It was in this spiritual connection that we realized what was truly important. We recognized what was precious. And what is precious is people, our families, our friends. Many people I know said spending more quality time with their families was one of the gifts of COVID. Because people stayed in more than they normally did, they got to make deeper connections. Checking in on friends and staying a part of their lives was another benefit of this time. Many afternoons, I would call different friends to check in on them, to be sure they were okay. Staying connected was one way to fly in the face of isolation. I recall my quilting students. I would call my quilting students to see if they were okay. Many live alone. The first weeks of calling were punctuated by short conversations. As the pandemic wore on, each call got longer, and some calls were very emotional. Tears were not uncommon. One of my students called and asked a favor. Would you please take me to the nursing home where my mother is? She is dying. I am not sure that the depth of these connections would have happened without the pause that this COVID time put in our lives. Another gift of COVID was an uptick in creativity. I saw musicians writing more songs, artists painting and sculpting, and sewers making masks by the hundreds. And me? I figured out how to download my photos onto my computer. In the stillness, I found the voice of nature. I have photographed scads of animals and flowers during this time. When I showed my photos to friends, they asked where I took them. I answered, my backyard. Taking these photos required me to be still and observe things I might otherwise have missed. One such incident happened about a week ago. I was standing at my kitchen sink, filling the coffee pot when I noticed a blue jay in my lilac bush. I call her she, but I really don't know, flew over to the shepherd's hook that was holding an empty bird feeder. She sat there a moment, and I stood quietly watching. Then she did something I have never seen a blue jay do. She walked to the end of her perch, stretched her neck out toward the window, and looked in, right at me. We stood just so for a long time. Another gift to COVID. We left to go about our tasks, but later that afternoon, when I was sitting in the backyard, she reappeared. At first, it was a rustle in the lilac bush. Then she sat on the bird bath to take a drink. When she finished, she turned and looked at me again. We sat staring at each other across the yard. She flew off, but only to the fence gate. Then she was off. A few seconds later, I heard her call from the top of the other lilac bush before she finally disappeared. Would I have had this experience if I had not taken the time to be still and listen to the inner voice of nature? Life is not even. It is filled with ups and downs. These COVID times have certainly had their downs, but these times have also bestowed gifts on us. Perhaps the lesson that we can learn from these difficult times, these times of challenges, of change, is that in the difficulties we face, that teach us the most, allowing us to grow the most. Our final hymn is number 354, We Laugh, We Cry. We invite you to please remain muted and sing out joyfully from home, verses 1 and 4.
As we extinguish our chalice flame this morning, let us read together the words printed in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls to the world we live in until we are together again. Though we cannot be seated next to one another, we are still connected in this community. As we come to a time to close our service, I want to invite you into an embodied practice of holding hands from a distance at the end of our service. If you are joining us by video, please change your view to gallery view. rather than to speaker view. Then reach your hands out to the edge of your screen. For folks here by phone, place a hand over your heart and bring to mind someone you love from this congregation. The words of Pope Francis: "Rivers do not drink their own water. Trees do not eat their own fruit. The sun does not shine on itself, and flowers do not spread their fragrance for themselves. Living for others is a rule of nature. We are born to help each other, no matter how difficult it is. Life is good when you are happy, but much better when others are happy because of you." And let the people of the church say, Amen. As we come to a time to close our service, I invite you to follow the benediction with the words, "One of the gifts from COVID to me is." Please join us in typing these words into the chat together.